Hello, hey, hi everybody. Social media family, being whatsoever racist, then not necessarily being whatever walks of life, factions of society, or lifestyle preferences. I mean, you have got to recognize and realize that I myself personally, or that being a my person, cannot or could not possibly hang with some anybody and everybody. Or so I say and or state for that being the record, regardless of whether or not that my person am speaking some or such correct proper standard English grammar of the American dialect of some or such qualities and quantities or not. I mean, it should prove to have become or be that being of a no brainer, as in self explanatory, or go double or triple to be said, as well as it would go without saying, for that being the reason or purpose for that my person having said so for the last mention, as I had done or did, you know, people's places and things, being at the wrong place at the wrong time in the wrong crowd can or could possibly have some or such rather severe or serious consequences. Disregard this here. I get to get it fixed. This is from a little accident I had trying to let a certain, no, let me just put it like this here, neighbor from down hell know that he himself is being a real freaking idiot, loser, jerk. And then so I yet to get maintenance to do necessary repairs or do it on my own. After I were to pay a visit to an Ace Hardware and go about with my own plastering. So don't let that distract you from what I have to say for this particular social media broadcast or video as we have it. As of the present moment, I was just looking at one of these pop-up notifications. Anyway, though, now that I've gotten the preliminaries, the basic intro out the way, practically, if not possibly altogether. But then, how are you all doing? Hopefully, everyone is doing at least okay, if not better yet to be said, to be feeling all right, or if not best of all to be said, to be feeling blessed and stressed, more blessed and stressed, or too blessed to possibly become or be stressed. You and yours, family, friends, hopefully me and mine likewise as well, or all the same. Well, so I say back speaking the King's things or street slang for that matter, you know. And if I should say anything, being of which could possibly, practically, possibly prove to have become or be quite or very much so offensive, then please do inform that my person, but all the while employing the uses of discretion, or all the while at the same time using discretion or whatever I've said, as you can bring to my attentions within the comment sections. How many comment sections do you have? Or comment section for any social media broadcast or video being in which I could possibly air and you could possibly become a participant thereof. You know, for that is some such given moment in time, like some you have in the past, so you can do at the present or in the future. No, not that everyone has gone about commenting, is trying to think of it with my intentions to bring it to my attention that my speech is rather contrary, but I was just saying for the sake of argument, whereas others would, you know, try to compliment me rather than submit sarcastic comments or remarks otherwise. Whereas the majority of some and such are not only unjustified or or unwarranted, but likewise unwelcome. So if you come off like some kind of a rather ignorant and or insane, not to mention impolite, or rather, in other words, to rephrase that, or paraphrase last comment or remark, which I have made, you come off sounding or seeming rather, stupid and sick, not to mention rude, like some kind, sort, or type of a dime a dozen, brain dead, brainless, or brainwash, freaking idiot, loser, jerk, and or sickle, like a proverbial neighbor from hell, being of whom you just most recently heard in the background, making with his bam bam rolls routine, as I suspect that he himself could possibly be moonlighting as a crank caller and on internet troll himself, not to mention stalker, then please do yourself a favor, and not just me, by taking a hike, get off of my channel, get out of my chat room and or comment section, as your presence here is not welcome, you know, then because life is too short to engage in or to become party to or participant of somebody else's negative, contradictory, or non-beneficial drama, being because you yourself have had quite a bit of a really messed up day and a night of it, weekend for that matter. Don't mean that you can just come on somebody else's channel or come into somebody else's chat room in or comment section and prove how much of an ignoramus, imbecile, or idiot and or sick or psycho you can be. You know, I fail to see how anybody can or could possibly, you know, get something beneficial out of attempting to trash somebody else's personal social media channel, chat room, and our comments section. What's the point of it? I fail to recognize and realize it. All you're just going to prove is that you're a dime a dozen bonehead or butthead, uncivilized prehistoric Neanderthal savage, to be translated to be defined as meaning bonehead, butthead, cave person character. You know, rolling off the presses of the simile line of ignorance, insanity, and or impoliteness, or stupidity, sickness, and or rudeness. So if you don't want them trips, then take a hike. Okay. Then because I rode with the best of them, or rather should I say, the worst of the likes. Usually, I end up pulling their bitch card. Their wigs, be they bastard or bitch. Oh, excuse me, let me rephrase that. Let me paraphrase. Because this is supposed to be that is a present social media broadcast. If you don't mind, it is supposed to be one where I should prove myself, being that of my person, to become or be quite apologetic for the last social media broadcast or video being on which I had aired, whereas I was cussing and swearing like a drunken sailor on shore leave. And regardless of how I am still feeling quite up under the weather as of the present given moment in time, whereas I may have to pay a visit to a local neighborhood community, public or private facility for a medical establishment of a hospital, and then possibly likewise do follow up at a clinic for the way I'm feeling now. No, and possibly likewise for my mental as well as for my physical general health, And hopefully no doctors and nurses had given me something without my approval or agreement, or without my permission or without my consent, and as well as, let me say it and stated for the record, without that of my knowledge. Because I, for one, to speak upon some of such other matters now when it comes to mine, I do not approve of the present vaccine that is supposedly a fix all for the present global pandemic. When, if anything, anytime somebody produces that is a doctor or scientist, scientist, what you know what I'm saying? Anytime a scientist that is supposed to be affiliated or associated with and representing the medical community produces a vaccine to be processed off the assembly line, whereas it has not gone through the necessary process of years of testing, and all of a sudden it's approved within a time frame period of a span of just from 1 year to a year and a half, then that would make me rather suspicious of the item product in question to be given to the general public or the people at large, you know. And likewise, when there is information being, gotten out that the lab monkeys in question to be experimented on are humans rather than how there is likewise supposed to be years of testing upon the lesser species of creatures being of animals before any tests were to be done upon any humans for our own species. And so that just gets me to reflecting upon the Tuskegee incident, whereas the scientific or medical community had infected large numbers of poor, uneducated black males down south with that of a sexually transmitted disease and did not medically treat them for half a century. That's 50 years. So it's no wonder how that when it comes to a certain race of people or persons, so far as concerning blacks is concerned, that you would think that a much greater percentage of us would be less likely wanting to put our heads on a chopping block and become the experimental human lab monkeys for a vaccine that has not been properly tested for the required number of years, as well as has not been given to the lesser species of creatures of the different animals for likewise a number of years before it were to be given to any humans of whatever race and whatever walks of life, factions of society, lifestyle preferences, being of the old, young alike, of both two sexual genders, males and females, And now that I have cleared the air as to why I myself am anti-vaccine rather than pro-vaccine, then nevertheless I would do all within my power to take care of my general health, be it of a physical or mental status, etc. Because I do not trust the medical community, the scientific community 100%, in due regard on in reference to or to compliment something then which I had mentioned earlier. Okay. Moving right along, as the British would say, being of our kissing cousins across the waters of the great Atlantic, for that of a country or a nation being of which supposedly had given birth to our own, as it is supposed to be the mother country, that had inspired Americans to start a revolution so that we could from there establish that of our own. That's for supposed so-called democratic republic or democracy. Yes. And I had already apologized, I think, for my last social media broadcast or video with the way I was cussing and swearing like a drunken sailor upon shore leave. Well, at least I think I had done so or did. And if I did not, then so I apologize for now, regardless of how I am still feeling. Quite up under the weather, but hopefully not as much as I felt like before. And like I said before, so I say again, where it's still all the same, I may have to pay a visit to a medical facilities, premises, properties, be it public or private, for a local neighborhood community hospital, and then do follow up at a clinic. Being because for believers and unbelievers or non-believers alike, we all have only one life to live in this world upon this planet. Or if you look at it from one point of view, if not another. But then when it comes to the Christian perspective, and as I am one of some such being of the few, as in a.k.a. Protestants, real or true saints of the fellowship or card carrying members to the family of God, compared to how the majority or most church-goers, being the worst of two evils, are nothing but, of the worcest or closet devil worshippers for whatever religious denominations, being of which they themselves are associated or affiliated with and are representing. You know, what was I about to say before I lose my train of thought, so to speak, against? Yes, moving right along. Yes, I apologize for the cussing and swearing that I had done or did most recently. Whereas since then, well, I think even before then, I kind of like had it in mind to listen to God on my left shoulder than the devil on my. I mean, did I say God on my left shoulder? That's rather the correction. Prince of Peace continue to regulate my mind compared to how the Prince of Darkness attempts to confuse my speech. And as I think of it with that in my mind, it's intention to try to backtrack here with reasonable purposes being in order so I can go on to following, to continue from where and when that my person at last left off so I can finish up as a complete form previous prior line thought. And that's same sense of word. Whereas I could have that much more listened to God on my right shoulder is what I meant to say correction, but it's much rather instead I had listened to the devil on my left. Before you know it was off to the races, and I let my my human emotional feelings get the best of me to compliment a passage out of the good book where it says, so I paraphrase, if not quite exactly, that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, and in these here times where it's you know a lot of activities have been postponed with the global pandemic. At one time or another, I was calling it the corona faggot virus or the COVID-19 homo global pandemic, but I wish not to do that anymore, being because, it just get me reflecting upon how when a former ex-president of the USA, been of whom had been twice impeached, but then nevertheless twice acquitted for that matter, was like calling that of the coronavirus or COVID-19, that of the Asian virus or the China virus, before he had renamed it or re-nicknamed it the China virus. Still all the same, though. I mean, still all the same, well, so to speak. Yes. I mean, even so, that is, you know, ridiculously racist, but not as much as what he was calling it before then, you know. So I kind of resent that, and so therefore I would now, once I were to give it to God, I would resent what I have called it, And as I've had an epiphany about that, and likewise an epiphany about my last produced social media broadcast or video, as I was cussing and swearing like a drunken sailor. And so I apologize to you all for that. I am begging your apology. I'm not doing a tricky Dick Nixon. Okay. Please forgive me. Hopefully I can forgive myself just as much, if not more so, in this regard. What you heard in the background is just one of these jerk neighbors, up on the demonic influences. All I can do is pray for another person or other people. I cannot force them to get a new lease on life, even if they were to attempt to make me myself feel like a sexual assault victim, a rape victim, Well, hopefully nobody has orchestrated and or initiated or activated foul play or some such socially unacceptable and criminally illegal 2 cent power plays against that my person without my permission or without my consent as well as without my knowledge. And that is including doctors and nurses, because I had already explained to you all how I myself personally am anti-vaccine than pro-vaccine, you know. And to compliment what Minister Louis Farrakhan was saying about that vaccine, telling the black community not to take it. The black community, not only nationwide but worldwide. Anyway, I woke up this morning. I'm just feeling so messed up. Ooh, and I've been feeling like this for a number of days. Anyway, I mean, it got so I didn't even really step out of my pad as yet. Not that I was intending to be like quite a hermit for today. I really haven't. That's just how I pretty much so bedridden. I was feeling like, I'm gonna step out and give me something to eat shortly after, unless I fix me some odds and ends upon my premises properties and place of residence as I have it right here, whatever I can find. That's just how sick I was feeling, as in up under the weather in a physical kind of way. Still am. Yeah. Then some exterminator wants to show up and spray my place. Or critters, bugs, and like asking some such question. Could you come back some other time? Because I'm not feeling too well. So okay, I'll make it sometime next week. Hopefully it being of some such a way I'm feeling at the moment is not the result of developments of something he could have sprayed in my place of residence, whereas I can do my own spraying for critters or bugs. I think I'll make a request to the management of the building about that. Yeah, but then I heard something called, what is it, Zebo or Zico, some kind of bug spray where it is odorless and it doesn't affect, the human physical body compared to other insecticides, whatever they call it, insecticides, pesticides, or roach or bug spray. Yeah, I just been feeling it. I explained to y'all the symptoms much earlier. Yeah, headache, congestion, persistent cough, vomiting, irregular bowel movement. Not likewise painful urination process. There's one word that have contracted STD or VD. So I have to make sure that my washroom window is locked before I were to retire for the night, as in try to get my beauty rest or Z's, so far I sleep otherwise. Then because there are quite a few, well, that's not the half of proverbial neighbors from hell, or public nuisance problem neighbors, my premises properties here, where I myself am presently at as a tenant, being one of the residents or among other neighbors paying annual monthly rent, etc. And certain tenants, residents, or neighbors otherwise, they tend to continue to disrespect the rights and privileges of their fellow.
I don't see Bryson City in
your their fellow. Who do you want to send it to? Sorry about that, you all. Their fellow, their fellow neighbors, and likewise continue to go about violating their apartment rental leases when it's bad enough if there are any, you know, intruders that venture upon the premises properties of this building structure for its edifice or real estate premises properties, attempting to acquire or gain access to it, you know, and then to think that here it is, you have certain neighbors that are continuing to prove themselves to have become or be quite obnoxious, especially if they are of the likes of the rank and file of the criminal riffraff or elements of any given society, you know, be it were to be for a dictatorship for that matter, as well as a democracy or supposed so-called democratic republic, you know. Yeah. Other than that, I apologize for having mouthed off like I did, you all, during my last social media broadcast video. That's just how messed up I was feeling. Like, I didn't say F, but messed up. We're not going to go there with, I feeling like instead of, yeah. So I don't need any internet shows popping up in my channel, popping up on my channel or into my chat room and or comment section when I can get more enough of a neighbor from hell with his rather faggoty or closet faggot self, and no disrespect meant to be directed at the much more familiar faggots or homos, you know. I mean, although I am a fan of the Westboro Baptist Church religious broadcast, but then I don't agree with totally or completely everything they say for obvious reasons and or purposes for my having said that, being it because they are extremely homophobic, you know, in a blasphemous way, you know. And so they would be considered more as some kind of a, religious cult to me. Though some of what they say is like, on the money. I'm sorry, I'm getting closed out shortly, and I don't want any television broadcast. One of the very TV shows or movies that I don't like compared to other ones that I do like, interfering with this present social media broadcast or video, Yeah, as I yet this channel surf and find something that would be more to my liking, and at the same time as I can have it on while I'm broadcasting. But anyway, though, I'm going to leave you all with this last note of interest by simply saying, "Oh, excuse me, that's a natural body function." Should bypass me. As I would usually give the greeting, I would also, you know, go about speaking upon some such of a subject matter, and then I will get a closing in. By just simply saying, if you haven't gotten Christ as your own personal Lord and Savior, I would hope that you would think to do so now while the blood is still running warm in your veins, by recognizing and realizing what He Himself had done or did upon the cross of Calvary on the hill of glory. Something at the hands of some such Roman soldiers up under the orders of their superiors, religion, otherwise Pharisees, Sadducees, Centurion, etc. But then, nevertheless, whereas He went to that cross of Calvary to become the perfect sacrifice, the only sacrifice for you as well as for me, so that if any of us, being of whatsoever races and of whatever walks of life, fashion, of society, lifestyle preferences, being of the old, young, like both two sexual genders, the males and females represent not only the human species, but then that less the global community within this post 911 era of a new millennium apocalyptic day and age where the doomsday clock is now at a couple few minutes to midnight compared on our phone periods prior to the end was a quarter midnight for these rather biblical prophetic times. Where the profess some of us has faith in him, from there we become and be blessed in one regard or another, in more ways than one. First and foremost, with his salvation, being of which is the only means by which any of us can or could possibly be considered as citizens of the kingdom of heaven. Once we were to make that transition for the great beyond the hereafter afterlife, because we would have that insurance policy for our moral human soul. And then second of all, where we would be blessed. Second of all, with his deliverance while we're still here. But first, you have got to get his salvation while you're upon the planet in this world. Otherwise, you have nothing coming so far as blessings otherwise is concerned. And once you were to leave this world, your final destination will be the lake of fire, damn hell, compared to how we as believers in God, as in Christians, a.k.a. Protestants, will be across that great divide that separates heaven from hell in the presence of like-minded believers as citizens of the kingdom of heaven. You know, unlike those others who will be tortured and terrorized by the devil and the demons forever, we would be ourselves, also, or as well as the company of God and his angels otherwise. Hey, but then you all take care and be blessed, not stressed. Peace, love, joy, and happiness. Take care and be safe. Become blessed, not stressed, even when you can. I'll see you later. Peace.